Today on our show, we will be talking about NES games that we played as kids. We will finally get into the mystery of the fall of Dunrick.
And we'll avoid the flying hounds of destruction.
Welcome to NintenDomain, episode 26. We are your hosts, Trey Johnson and...
Hey, how's it going? It's Jeremy Murkowski.
What's up, man? Here we are, another week on the Nintendo Cast.
Another ep. We're past that quarter century, so it's just like downhill from here, right?
Yeah, right. Totally. How's the new NES working? Or the new old, whatever you call it. The Retron. Did you get it?
I think, yeah, it's a Retron. I think I like to call it a Family clone because I saw that on the internet. But it's a clone system. The best way I can describe it is quite functional. I can play games on it. They're very playable. The visual fidelity, I'm not sure I like, but I haven't tested it on a CRT, so I don't know for sure. Maybe that's just, due to it being on an HD TV.
Oh, sure. Are you saying like the colors look weird or you can tell the delay or?
There's kind of like weird lines that go through it that I don't think are supposed to be. And it kind of distorts the sprites. But everything's playable. And then, any kind of text looks fine, and that's why I'm wondering if maybe it's just a distortion that you notice when it's blown.
And you don't think that it's from from going through the VHS? Have you tried it without?
Yeah, I tried going straight into the TV, right away, and it was identical.
Oh, sure.
With the naked eye, it was identical.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have my NES. My NES is just plugged directly into the HD TV, and I think it looks all right. I mean, for what it is. I haven't had any
most likely it's just not up to snuff to what an actual NES would be. So I'm going to keep looking for one. I just don't want to pay a whole bunch of money for it. But in the meantime, this works fine for, at least checking out games and playing through them. I guess I know in my heart I'm not getting the maximum experience.
Oh, yeah. But it didn't cost, I'm sure it didn't cost you a whole lot to get it, right?
It was $18 shipped.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a great price. I mean, it wasn't like $50 or $70 or something like that.
It's really tiny, and it comes with an actual adapter you could use for an NES. So you look those up. I think they're like $6 or $7 on Amazon. So you get one of those too, and then you get a set of AV cables, which ain't worth shit, but there they are.
Oh,
so I think this would be if this worked okay, and I mean, not saying I would do this, but I could see people taking the internals out and doing case mods with it. Because it's a very small system, and I think it's just one board with an 18-pin connected to it, and it's really small. So.
Yeah, and it's not it's not an emulator. It's actually playing the games, right?
Yeah,
as far as you know.
There's no way that thing has loaded up with ROMs. It's very archaic in its design.
Yeah, I think the other one does that because of the HDMI output or whatever.
I also know because if it was emulators, it wouldn't have the same sort of distortions when the cartridge needs to be blown in. You still have to blow it.
Yeah.
That's not going.
A lot of people talk down on the blowing in the cartridges. It's
works.
supposedly worse for it, from what I've heard. That you can get saliva in there. I don't know. I go for the Q-tip. I go for the Q-tip on the contacts.
My theory is that
rubbing alcohol.
Yeah. My theory is that there's moisture in breath, which I may have read somewhere also. But it's what the moisture in your breath creates greater conductivity.
Yeah, see, that's what I heard. The opposite side of that the moisture in your breath messes up the pins.
Oh,
but who knows?
It makes it work, so something's going right.
Well, yeah, and there's all those there's all of those old stuff stuff that we did to you heard different ways to get the games to play. Like my friend John, who was on the Zelda cast. He always put one game in and then another game on top of it to get it to work. That's one of the
I've done that.
Phobias or whatever, or superstition type of things, which I've done it before and it works. What I do on mine is I pull the game out so far that it just barely makes it in. When you push it down.
Yep, that's what I do too.
That works. That works too sometimes. Yeah,
kind of clicks on the edge so it's snug.
Yeah, I do that, and that's another sort of thing that maybe works sometimes.
You kind of wiggle it a little bit, and you hit reset. You kind of wiggle it until it doesn't skip anymore.
I mean, that's what I was doing today when I was playing. We're gonna get into our later in the show. We're gonna get into our NES games that we played as kids. But I was trying to play through some of them today, and I was doing the same thing, where I was like pulling it back and pushing it down and all that fun stuff.
You still have to do this with this emulator, or it's not an emulator, sorry, with this clone.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, one thing I did notice, and I thought I should mention, in spite of like whatever the visual artifacting is that's happening, possibly because of the system, I have a game I bought at a thrift store. It still has a tag on it. I bought it for like $1.29. It's called Kung Fu. It's a really common.
I played Kung Fu.
I've never been able to get it to work, and I've tried on a bunch of different Nintendos. So I just assumed it was broken, but I haven't had the heart to get rid of it. But it works on this thing, and it doesn't work very well. Like, it's still like really kind of fucked up. But you can play it, like, it's playable, but it's definitely like a damaged game.
Oh, yeah.
But for whatever reason, this one's able to at least run it in semi-playable way.
Sure.
So 1.4 Famiclone.
Oh, yeah, because since I play Kung Fu. I have a funny story involving Kung Fu, sort of. I mean, it's not really a story, it's just, when the first time I went to, like, a school dance, like a homecoming, we had, in the, like, cafeteria, they had a TV set up with Kung Fu that you could play. So that was my first Kung Fu experience. Was that the first like junior high dance thing or whatever? It wasn't even like homecoming. It was like one that you go to that you don't need a date for, you know, where the girls and the guys stand on different sides of the room, like that type of thing. Like when I was in junior high, and the first one I went to, they had Kung Fu, and I spent most of the time in the cafeteria playing Kung Fu instead of trying to dance with anybody. So that was that.
Were you taking turns with other people, or were you just by yourself?
There were other people there. I mean, it was mostly just guys. We were just sitting there. We were just standing there playing Kung Fu. So I guess they thought that'd be a good thing to put there for everyone who's bored at the dance. I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
Well, that's a good game to just like it moves really fast, and you could just take turns and see who could get the higher score. Pretty good.
Kung Fu's kind of isn't the one game I thought about doing, but it was just like too ridiculous and bad to do it. Was the Karate Kid 1 and 2, which is like one of the first games I ever played on NES and ended up buying it as a kid. Did you ever play that game? I think it's a clone of Kung Fu, isn't it?
I did.
Sort of.
I'm not sure. I've never played the karate games.
Oh. Well, it starts off kind of like a fighting type game, like Street Fighter-ish, you know, where it starts off with the end of the first movie with him like fighting the guys in the competition. And there's like a few rounds like that. And once you get through that, it's like a side scroller where you go through Japan and kick people and punch and kick people. I don't know. I remember it being similar to Kung Fu.
So you just travel to Japan and kick some ass?
Pretty much. That's the second part of it. It goes, well, it's 1 and 2. So, you know, you beat all the guys in the first movie, and then you go to Japan and you gotta save that dude from the house. There's like this power up there's this power up that you get that is like that guy that he saves. It's like that's caught under the house, you know, when there's a storm in Japan. It's like stuff like that that's kind of stuck in there. And there's like bonus levels where you catch flies and break ice and other stuff like that. But it's
it sounds like it's a little bit more complex than
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu's pretty much you just run across and punch and kick.
Well, that's what you do in Karate Kid too, though. There's just
and then you get to the edge of the screen, and sometimes you just go back to the other side.
Oh yeah, it doesn't actually have like full side-scrolling levels. Kung Fu doesn't. I don't know. It's been a long time since I played it. I think the last time I played it was
there's
at
a really
that dance.
limited space for the scrolling, and then sometimes you kind of like go back over underneath, you know, on a level. So it's kind of like a chutes and ladders sort of scenario where you're like spiraling back and forth.
Oh, crazy!
From what I remember, I haven't played that far in this severely messed up version that I have.
Yeah, well, obviously because it doesn't work very well.
It gets really glitchy, but it's also legitimately hard. I could see it being a tough game if it was working right.
Sure. Speaking of tough games, did you try Dragon Warrior on your Retron?
I did. I loaded it up and I named my character and talked to the king and got out of the castle. Went to that first town and the name of it just like blew my brain. I didn't know what the heck that name was up with that name. What's his name in this town? I've never seen this because I thought I'd played the game before.
Wasn't it like Weddingale or something like that? I don't remember the name of it.
So yeah, that's as far as I got. I was just like, whoa, that's a weird name. So I played it on Game Boy because I actually bought the same one you were talking about buying for yourself. I bought that. I found that. Wanted to play it on the Virtual Boy, or not the Virtual Boy, the Super Game Boy. It wouldn't fit in the Virtual.
I wish you could play it on the Virtual Boy. 3D Dragon Warrior in all colors of red.
Yeah, why didn't they have dual compatibility games? But the names of the town, well, the name of the town is completely different. I wish I had researched it. The names are all different, and like the way the layout is different.
Yeah, that's because this is this one comes from the remake, the Super Nintendo remake, which I think I
okay.
But the The Game Boy version of it is a port of the Super Famicom remake of 1 and 2. So that's like the actual Japanese towns, I guess, is what they're called. Because the one that we got, like the original NES ones, were like altered a little bit, like with the sort of Elizabethan speak and all that. Like that wasn't in like the Japanese version. And actually, Dragon Warrior 1 was upgraded for the American release. It was actually worse. The original Japanese one was worse than this one. Like the character like always faced the same way, like he didn't turn, and like the animation was worse and all that. But there's difference. Like if you're like, because I was playing through, I played through the first one, but I was playing through Dragon Warrior 2, and if you look for Dragon Warrior 2 stuff online, some of them have different names for the towns as well, because the original version of NES had different names on that one also compared to the Game Boy one.
Yeah, I don't know why it blew my mind so much. Because town names can change. It's not the end of the world. But so I've played both versions to the exact same point, which is where I just walk into the town, see the name is different in two versions.
That's like not even like 10 minutes of the game, because the town is right there. You can get there in like 10 seconds. You haven't even leveled up yet? You haven't even fought a slime? You gotta fight a slime.
Actually, I did fight a couple slime. I fought a red one, actually.
I actually bought a T-shirt. I bought a Dragon Quest T-shirt that's just a picture of that slime. It's just a picture of the battle screen from Dragon Warrior 1, and it just has a slime on it. I thought it looked really awesome.
I do like it that it says in the NES version, like, you've done well to defeat this. Like, it gives you some positive reinforcement, but it doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in the Game Boy version. It's just like, you beat slime.
Oh yeah, and I don't think they do the "Thou art dead" thing in the Game Boy one either. I remember I thought that was really funny when I was a kid when I played the first one.
Thou art dead.
Thou art dead. But I mean, stick with it on the Game Boy. It's pretty good. I think the second.
You think that's the better version to play?
Well, you could put it this way: like in the original version, you probably got to kill like 500 slimes to make it through the game, and in the Game Boy version, you probably only got to kill like 300 slimes. So it's a little bit easier. It's the grinding is not as bad.
But you don't feel like anything about the story or whatever is lost in that up conversion.
No, I mean you would consider. I mean the definitive version is the Super Famicom version, but that version is not available here. So the closest that you would get to that would be the Game Boy one. For sure. I would say.
Well, I like that because I can take it with me.
Yeah, I would say that would be the one to play if you can't. I mean, I kind of enjoyed the hardness of the first one on the NES just because it kept me on my toes and it felt kind of more exciting.
Yeah, and you were doing a bucket list sort of thing.
Sort of. I just wanted to play some Dragon Quest games, and that was like the only one I had at the time. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, it definitely gives us some more time on the on the Game Boy. And hopefully we'll get to a Dragon Quest episode at some point. Aren't they? I feel like I know they didn't give I don't think they ever gave a date for Dragon Quest 7 on 3DS. But I feel like that it might get like a June or July thing. I thought I had heard that somewhere, that it was supposed to be announced to be like in next month or the month after. So
even though they're not going to have any other games at E3, are they still going to make announcements?
I think they could. I mean, they could throw it in.
They could even just have a card that's just like, we're not going to discuss these games, but here they are in their release dates.
Speaking of E3, do you want to go into the news segment of our show? I don't know if you've looked at any of the stuff from this week involving E3. Like there was like a couple stuff that they said involving E3. There was that MH thing or whatever, which I guess is not really a news story. Did you see that?
I saw that.
That the handheld might be called MH or whatever. I don't know. It didn't look like it was really worth anything. So I guess like IGN reported on it and then said that they shouldn't have reported on it. Whatever it is. I don't know.
All that I got from it was that maybe, possibly, they were just letting their investors. There will still be a separate handheld. The same thing.
Yeah, that would basically mean that whole one system thing is just not. It's not going to happen.
No, I don't think that. I still think it's like going to be an ecosystem where you have the handheld, but the handheld can play that still. Like it doesn't have to be tethered like the Wii U gamepad. It actually can run the software by itself.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be what people think, and that would be a cool thing. But I don't know.
And it still like satisfies the requirements of being a separate handheld.
I mean, it's still just more shit to be like, what does this mean, or what is it?
Right.
More to speculate.
Pure
about.
speculation, exactly.
But there's some actual news involving Nintendo stuff. I saw, well, for one thing, did you see that there like 500 fans are going to get to play the Zelda Wii U demo?
Yeah, just another reason for me to be like upset I can't be there. But yeah, you have to be one of the first 500 people there. You have to
at the Nintendo. It's not called the Nintendo World Store anymore. It's called like Nintendo New York or something like that now. They just redid it. But yeah, the first 500 in line. Like how long do you think people are going to camp out for that? Because it's like it's the 11th. When they get the first 500 in line. Do you think people are going to start on the 10th? Well, people start on the 10th for sure, but the 9th even? Who knows? I mean, that could be crazy.
I mean, are we talking Eastern time or Central time?
Oh, I'm just talking like how long they're going to camp out for. Like people camp out for like a whole day, you know, to be first or the first 500 in line. I mean, yeah, I had friends that camped out for like 3 days for the Wii when that came out. Well, John, our guest from Zelda, being one of those, he camped out for like 3 days to be first in line for the Nintendo Wii.
Wow. Yeah, and to get to play the game close to a year before it's released, it's actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it'd be interesting. And they're giving you wristbands, so you know you're going to see those wristbands show up on like eBay or something, selling for like $500, if even that. You know, because it's basically standing in line to get a wristband that'll get you in to play it later. And I guess you'll actually play it at the Nintendo World Store, not actually at E3. So it doesn't actually get you into E3. You just get to play it like during E3 while E3's on.
So it's in New York
on a 15-foot TV, which they have there, by the way, which is pretty awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a 15-foot TV in the Nintendo New York store that's gonna stream all of the stuff from E3, and they're gonna play stuff on it, I believe, as well. The 500 people. So,
well, I guess the good news is that we're gonna see plenty of gameplay footage of the new Zelda game next month.
Yeah, I read that it was gonna be like an hour and a half worth of demo. Did you see that?
I did not.
They're saying it could be completed at up to 90 minutes. That's a long fucking demo.
It could also be a pretty short demo that people bumble.
Yeah, I mean, what if it's like a whole dungeon? That'd be really cool.
I think that'd be cool. I do remember, like, not to go on too much of a tangent, I remember playing through a level on Shadows of the Empire in 64. It was a level, I can't remember what level it was, but it's the first level you get the jetpack, I think. And like it times your level, and it took me, I played through that same level over and over again. It took me like 45 minutes to beat it. I was just really stunned that level took so long to beat. That was one level.
Oh, it's the one. Yeah, I think it's the one with like all the chasms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
I was probably just doing terribly, but
yeah, I remember that taking a while to beat. The what was it? I know Darksiders 1. Like that had a demo. Like that had a free demo that was a whole dungeon. I remember playing that on PS3, which I thought was really cool. And it took me a few hours to beat it. To beat the dungeon, but it gave me a really good feel for the game, like that it gave you a whole dungeon as a demo for free you could download. I really liked that, so I could see that as being a thing, you know, where they give you like a dungeon that's like maybe like midway into the game, so you can see some of the tools that you'll get. That's like kind of how that one worked.
Did they do an actual playable demo on Wind Waker? I can't remember.
What do you mean? Did they like release one?
Yeah, was there ever a playable demo for that game? Like that was that on a demo disc?
I don't know. No, I mean if there was, I didn't get it and I didn't play it because I never played it until I got the game, until the game came out. But there might have been one that they had after that, you know, like after it was released that you could play at GameStop.
Oh, okay.
There might have been, but I don't know because we bought the game on the day it came out, so that was the first time I played it. So there wasn't
the day
any...
it came out, and I think I beat it the second day.
Really? I mean, I know it's pretty short, but you beat it in like 2 days?
It was 2 or 3 days. It was over a weekend, I know that.
Yeah, I remember.
I didn't have much to do. I was skipping class, so I was just playing it.
Yeah, I didn't. I had a little bit better resistance to it than you did. Because even though it was short, I wanted to still like kind of wait a little bit because I don't want to beat it in like a week, you know. So I waited on it and kind of like took my time. Took breaks.
But you were right. You were right to know that it would be a long time before you got more Zelda. Twilight Princess came out 5 years later.
I don't think it was that long. Was it? I don't know.
It was 4 years. It was 2006, so yeah, 4 years.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't take notes on that. But E3 is it's happening in a couple weeks. We're about to the end of May, so we're getting pretty close, right? They're because they line up it on the 11th, and then their actual event starts on the 14th. And it said they have a 6-day event. So after that, it'll go through like the 20th, I guess.
About 2.5 weeks away.
Yeah, we're almost there.
2.5 more episodes of NintenDomain.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a half one. Also, Kirby Robobot's like right around the corner. That's coming out like right before E3 as well on the 10th. I've heard it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen reviews online. I've not really read too many of them, but they exist.
I mean, we're probably not doing. Are we doing a Kirby episode for Kirby Robobot? It'd be so hard to do. There's like so many Kirby games. I mean, even like a retrospective of Kirby would take forever. So I don't think I haven't played all of those games.
Yeah, I'd say Kirby Superstar would be the game to play.
Yeah, we could just do Kirby Superstar, or like the golf game, that weird Kirby golf game that was on Super Nintendo.
I have that game.
Yeah, I have it too on Virtual Console, and I had the cartridge of Superstar, but I think I ended up selling it.
Let's just do it all about Tilt and Tumble.
Yeah, that's one I don't have, but I wish I did. The Star Tropics 1 and 2 came out yesterday on Virtual Console, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was surprised. You told me that you'd seen some news that Star Tropics was coming out, and I didn't actually research it myself, so I was surprised when I saw both of them.
Well, we had been talking about doing a retrospective anyway because I wanted to do some more NES stuff, and now it's out. So next week we'll do a retrospective / our thoughts on a playthrough. I'm already on like the 4th level of Star Tropics 1 and 2, which we're gonna do a show about next week. Have you played the first one at all yet?
Yeah, I played through the first dungeon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I played through
the game in the past, but that's as far as I've got this playthrough.
Yeah, I played up till I think I'm on like the 4th part now. So I beat the first 2 or 3 bosses.
Yeah, I'm working on rescuing the dolphin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that level was always fun. Spoilers, but you know where to find the item, right? The snowman item in that level in that dungeon, or have you found it?
Yeah, I found it and then I lost it.
Oh, okay. The save state works really well for that too, because you could do it through the.
I know that now. I think I'm gonna start the level over.
Because on the 3rd level that I was playing, there's a magma boss that and it's possible for you to get like a magic file or whatever. But if you lose a life, you lose the magic file. So I would just save state with the magic file until I got to the boss, and then I beat it with the magic file. Makes it a lot easier.
Save states.
Yeah, save states make that game a lot easier. I think that's why I finally beat it later on the Wii. Actually, no, you can't even really do save states on the Wii, though, right? Because I beat it on Virtual Console on the Wii, but you can't actually record a certain part and then go back to it like you could on 3DS or Wii U.
I think you might be able to for NES games. I don't know. I'd have to go back and check.
I don't think you can.
I thought that I had downloaded
it just saves
Star Tropics on the Wii, but I hadn't. I actually had only downloaded the second one because that's the one I got the $1. That was the other good news. I got the $1 discount, or it was just $1.
Yeah. I had downloaded both of them, so they were both $1. Yeah, that other one I just really couldn't get into, but I'd never really played it at all. Like, I skipped it when I was a kid because by the time it came out, the Super Nintendo was already out. So it was just kind of like, I didn't really. I remember seeing it on sale in like the Toys R Us bins, but never actually got it.
Yeah, these games are, I don't know if 2's easy to get a hold of. The first one is pretty easy. I have 2 copies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think Zoda's Revenge probably is pretty easy to get a hold of too, because I don't know. I remember there were a lot. I remember them being around when they came out. Like, nobody really bought them. But then again, that might have been a limited release. I don't know. The second one didn't have the same feeling as the first one. I don't think. You travel through time. It's like the whole tropical settings kind of taken away, and you don't have it's not like the weapons don't work the same. Like, I kind of like the way the yo-yo worked. Like, this one you throw axes or whatever. It's weird. So it doesn't explain why they can only go so far. I don't know. But that's a topic for our next week's. That's our next week topic. I don't want to get into it too much this time.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll know a little more when we talk about it.
Yeah, we'll definitely. Hopefully we can both make it through, so we can talk about all the fun stuff in there.
I can at least make it through the first one. I don't know about both.
Yeah, don't worry about the second one, because I don't think I can get through the second one. But we'll at least try to get through the first one, and then talk some about the second one.
Challenge accepted.
So have you heard about the 8-player Minecraft battle mode that's coming out?
I have. I'm actually kind of intrigued by it. I don't think that came out for... Is that coming out for all systems, or...?
Yeah, it's coming out for everything.
But it's not a thing that's been out.
No, it's not. It's not a thing that's out yet. But yeah, it'll be on the Wii U version and all the other versions. But it sounds kind of interesting, I guess. It's sort of like a Hunger Games type thing or whatever.
Yeah, they had
where they drop a treasure and you got to fight over it, right?
Yeah, they did. There is a Hunger Games on the server I played on. I didn't ever really mess with it too much. Yeah, it was just people PvP, I guess. People just trying to kill each other.
Yeah, but it's like an 8-player thing. It sounded kind of cool. I don't know. I mean, I don't play Minecraft, but you do. You did.
Skyblock. Skyblock's my favorite.
What's-
Skyblock Survive is like...
What's Skyblock?
So what it does is it gives you, like, every player has, like, a certain space within the server, so that's your space. And then you start with a little tiny island, and you have to like, complete objectives, build a cobblestone generator. So what you do is you basically, like, you use the lava with the water block that they give you. And when they meet, they form a cobblestone. And then when you hit that, a new one forms. So, like, you get infinite cobblestone. So it's kind of like a little trick within the game, but it's necessary to play it. And then you, like, build all these other things. You keep building your island out bigger and bigger. Then eventually you've got this huge island with all these cool machines and stuff on it. In the meantime, you can, like, grow crops and stuff. And there's a store you can go to, which is a common area for everybody. You can sell your stuff to the store and make a bunch of money. So, like, there's also, like, the challenge of trying to have the most money out of everybody.
And this is and it's a multiplayer thing, and you guys are just
it was
racing
like
for how long you build the island, or how quickly
it wasn't even really a race because, like, by the time I started playing, you know, some people were multi-millionaires.
Oh wow!
But what was cool about that is there was also, like, a sort of, like, there's a chat window that runs the whole time, and within that chat window, you know, anyone can talk to anybody. And then it'll also have like an ongoing auction that's a lot like eBay, where, like, you bid on things that people are selling of their own, so you can get certain, like, key items for cheaper if you, like, bid for them through the auction.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's just, like, a whole economy, like, based on, like, what can you grow to get the most money to, like, buy the coolest things. I don't know. It's really complex once you get into it. I would love that to be on consoles.
Oh yeah, I don't know about that. I just heard about the 8-player battle mode.
Well, it's a step in the right direction. It's a multiplayer game that's built into the actual thing. You don't have to have a mod or something.
Oh, okay. Because they're going to use, I guess they're going to use some of the modded levels for the 8-player. That's what I heard. Like some of the ones that people make that will end up in there. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, to make an actual level, you have to be pretty good. I can't.
On the subject of Minecraft, well, it's not actually Minecraft, but did you hear that it's not announced for Nintendo yet? But did you hear that Dragon Quest Builders is coming to America? It's basically like Dragon Quest's version of Minecraft. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
It's called Dragon Quest Builders. It's basically in the end of Dragon Quest 1. When you meet the Dragon Lord, he basically asks you to join him, and if you join him, you die, and there's a game over, and you have to start back wherever you saved last. And anyway, this one takes place in that reality. Like, if you had chosen to join with the Dragon Lord, and the whole world had become a shadow world. So this guy basically goes through and tries to rebuild the world because everything is destroyed in that area. And it's you build basically kind of like Minecraft. It's basically Dragon Quest Minecraft. You build areas and you go fight monsters and, you know, knock things down and build shit up or whatever. I don't know. I think it looks cool. It was only announced for, like, PS4, but it's supposed to be like part of the Dragon Quest 30th anniversary. Come out this year. So hopefully we'll get that for NX or something, or I'll probably just play it on PS4. But I think it looks pretty rad.
What you're describing to me sounds a little bit like, did you ever play Dark Cloud on PS2?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
You basically, it's kind of like that. You, like, do dungeon crawling to get back pieces of towns and then rebuild the towns. But you also have to, like, when you lay them out on a grid, you know, you get certain perks if there's near other things. So there's, like, a strategy of how you lay the town.
Oh, sure. Yeah, this one's supposed to be, like, pretty much like Minecraft with, like, a Dragon Quest, you know, with Dragon Quest looking characters in it, but you can still, like, fight like slimes and stuff like that. They're still in there, and it looks a lot better than Minecraft does. You know, like
visually,
the graphics do. Yeah, I just thought it was cool. I mean, it's since we talked about Dragon Quest for the past, like, however many episodes, I thought I'd make note of it. Also, it's not really Nintendo news, but apparently Capcom named those two guys that were fighting in the beginning of Street Fighter 2. Did you hear about that? I mean, I guess it's Nintendo news because it was on Super Nintendo. But, you know, like those two guys that, like, take a swing at each other at, like, the very beginning of Street Fighter in the arcade, Street Fighter 2.
Oh yeah, before, like, it shows the title.
Yeah, apparently their names are Max and Scott, and they're going to be playable characters in Street Fighter 5 now. they're really reaching, I guess. I just happened to read over it before we started recording, and I was like, "What?" I just thought that was funny because, you know,
maybe that's a contract that Max and Scott signed back in, like, 1991. That was like, in 28 years. I'm not even doing the math.
Sure,
close to 30 years, we will make you playable characters.
We will finally settle who won that match.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I thought one guy got decked and the other one fell down. I just think it's like a mystery that I've really never wondered about ever. But now I know. Now I know who they are, who those guys who fought each other. And we haven't mentioned it in any of the other episodes, but I read that Pokken Tournament actually outsold Street Fighter 5 PS4, which is pretty cool. Like they actually sold more copies than they sold the Street Fighter 5. The Pokken Tournament did perform better, so that's pretty cool. I can relate it to a Nintendo news.
Yeah, that is, and I mean it makes sense because it's different. It's the Tekken franchise, sort of.
Well, yeah, and it's Pokemon. Pokemon moves a lot of units, and it's a good game. It was reviewed well, pretty easy. Well, let's. You don't understand Pokken Tournament?
I do not.
It's I don't know. When we played it, we were kind of inebriated, so it's a little more confusing than it should be, but. It's pretty. It doesn't take very long to get used to. You just play a few. You just got to kind of give it some time, but it's fun. Anyway, do you want to take a quick break here before we get into the topic of the week?
Sounds good.
All right.
We'll
just alternate.
Yeah, I'll start with Dynowarz because I was about, say I was 10, and we used to go to the pawn shop in town and buy NES games a lot cheaper than trying to buy new games. I found this game for like $5. It's called Dynowarz. It's a game I played a lot as a kid because, quite frankly, it's really easy.
Was the was the Super Nintendo out at this time? When you got Dynowarz?
Yeah, it was. We didn't have the Super Nintendo yet.
Oh, okay. Well, you said that when you were 10 they were cheaper, and I was trying to put together what time period it was. If the NES was still around,
probably around 92 that I bought this.
Oh, okay.
Not 1892.
Uh-huh.
I think I bought it for like $5. Seriously, it was cheap. But to me, that was a lot of money because I didn't have a job.
Sure.
But this was a game that, because a lot of NES releases, we'd buy them on faith and play them. They'd be really hard. They're usually hard games. But this one was really forgiving, and it was kind of fun. I mean, it's a fun game, and I think most people could probably beat this game in one sitting if they put their mind to it. There's a few little frustrating parts, but it's not a very hard game, and it's pretty short.
Yeah, I played it. I played a little bit last week. I mean, there's basically like two parts, and it's a side scroller, right? There's basically the parts of you when you're not in the when you're not in the dinosaur body, and then there's the parts when you're in the dinosaur body.
Yep.
Right? It kind of reminded me of Blaster Master a little bit.
I think that's kind of what I remember. I did read something that kind of compared it to that. I kind of just got down to the nitty gritty, and I'm like, all right, I still own this game. I don't think it's the same copy. In fact, I know it's not the same because it has a sticker for Goodwill for $1.29. So I paid $1.29 for this the second time I bought it.
Nice.
And I still have that copy. And it booted right up on my Famiclone. And I'm like, well, let's actually research this. So this game came out in 1989 in Japan. It was made by Bandai. You probably know Bandai.
I've heard of them. Namco Bandai. Well, this was before it was Namco Bandai, right? When it was just Bandai, like before they merged. Because Namco Bandai did a Pokken Tournament, like we were just talking about. So they're still around. They're with Namco now, but yeah, they're still around. I believe they worked on Smash Brothers as well with Nintendo.
There's a segue I didn't even consider, but yeah, Bandai. We're staying on Bandai here. I looked up for artist credits. There weren't very many people listed, so I mean that doesn't mean a lot of people didn't work on this game. But what I found compelling is that this was released in April of 1990 in North America. So it was probably about a 2-year-old game when I bought it. There's 2 artists listed: Kasai Ryuki and Haketa Reiko. That's the artists. So I guess that's the people who did the models. And then I thought it was kind of funny because there's not a lot in this game, but there are 4 composers for the music. And I can list them, I guess.
Were there anybody familiar that you noticed?
No one familiar. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that there were 4 different people doing sound for this very short.
How many levels about are in Dynowarz? I haven't played it. I played it all the way through. I haven't played it all the way through, but I know you have, and it's obviously didn't take too long, right?
I believe there's 6, maybe 7, but so a total of 12. It's either 12 or 14. And, you like you were saying, you alternate.
Oh, you mean like total for both sides, right? For like in the dinosaur and out of the dinosaur.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about this, because I never knew the names of the characters or what was actually happening or what the story of this game was.
Yeah, so what is the story? I mean, whatever you can find. It's kind of hard to find interviews with developers for NES games, especially for something like Dynowarz, which, I don't know if there's a whole lot of interviews out there for those, unless you can find stuff for them doing stuff later or whatever from the developers.
I didn't find anything that linked any of the developers to anything else. All I know is that there's names for these characters I've been playing. So the name of the dinosaur is Cyberosaurus, and Cyberosaurus was created by Professor Proteus.
Oh, of course.
And he basically, it's actually kind of similar to the story of Star Fox in a sense, because what happened is, like, Professor Proteus had someone working under him. I don't know if they even actually give a name to the guy, but this guy was working underneath him, and he learned his techniques for creating these cyborg dinosaurs. By the way, we're in the man-made solar system called Spondylus, so it's the distant future. It's a man-made solar system, all planets that we made ourselves. So this guy basically started creating weapons with the technology that he learned from the professor, and so he got exiled away. They just to deal with him, they exiled him. And when he went, he created a bunch of robotic dinosaurs called Robosaurs, and they came and they started to try to take over the whole solar system, Spondylus. So in this game, you're Professor Proteus fighting all these Robosaurs, and you have to get to the artificial intelligence compound that's within each planet, and you go in there, and then that's when you leave the dinosaur mech. It's pretty much a mech.
Yeah.
And you run as a human through, you find the mainframe, and you destroy the virus that's in it that this guy implanted when he sent all the Robosaurs. And then you have to run back through the level backwards. Luckily, they get rid of all the enemies, but you still have to do all the platforming again. So some of the platforming is a little tricky. The jumping is a little delayed. You played it, right?
Yeah, I played. I felt like the controls were a little weird, and the jumping, I had a hard time landing on stuff. But thankfully, whenever I hit the spikes, it didn't really take a whole lot of energy away, so I was able to get to the next part of the level without hitting any of the platforms.
Right. So that's one thing about this game. You could essentially, I mean, I'm not even really talking about it. So when you're the professor, you always have a gun that you shoot. So really, kind of the strategy becomes to just kill all the enemies in the room and then run across the room so that they're not knocking you back and giving you knockback damage that'll make you fall in a pit. Sure. So you just kill all them off, and you can pick up power-ups that increase your spray of your bullets, kind of like Contra a little bit.
Yeah, I remember in the dinosaur mode you could get power-ups that do different things or get different weapons. Yeah, kind of Contra-ish.
Right, and that's the power-ups within the when you're the human. It's just that you get more of a spray bullet going on. But yeah, with the dinosaur you get there's several different power-ups, and then they level up if you pick up successive versions of them. Unfortunately, they all kind of look the same, and I still have a really hard time telling what's what, because they're all in a gray color. They're not different colored items that are dropped, and they're just shaped differently, but they all have kind of similar shapes. But there is there's Fireball, which is just a standard projectile. You can upgrade that up to 3, and then you shoot a spray of fireballs. There is I don't think it's called Rocket Fist. It's called Launch Fist. So you shoot your fist off, and then it comes back to you boomerang style. The more you level that up, the further you can shoot it. And there's a laser that's kind of like everything else, all the other projectiles, except it doesn't terminate when it hits something, it keeps going. Then there's Bomb, and Bomb's the worst one. Bomb's good for when the pterodactyls try to attack you, because they dive bomb you.
Yeah.
But you shoot a bomb out of your back, and it kind of goes in an arc and then lands, and it's really hard to aim.
Yeah, I think I had that one, or had that one at one point.
But yeah, that's pretty much all the power-ups. Really, I gotta be honest, you can just run through this game and just let the enemies hit you and just keep running. There's enough power-ups where not only do you get a full health bar, but you get a shield bar if you pick up a shield icon, and that just doubles your health. Even if you're low on health and you pick up a shield bar, that gives you an extra bar of health, and then that has to run all the way out before you continue losing the health you already had. So when you get out of your dinosaur and you're in the Professor Proteus levels, you'll run into a couple of enemies. I was able to find their names here. One of them is, well, I guess it's not technically an enemy. It's an obstacle. These are the things that gave me the most grief in the game. They're called the platforms of deception.
Oh, so, sounds dangerous.
You think they're going to platform a certain way, and then they don't because they're deceptive.
I figured you would just fall through them.
No, they just move around. They don't stay in place. I guess that's this the deceptive part. And then the enemy you run into is the Flying Hound of Destruction. And he sounds really intimidating, but mostly it just kind of looks like some kind of lumpy thing on a flying carpet. And on certain parts, like if you just stand at the edge of the level as the edge of the screen as you walk in, and you try to pick off everyone in that screen so you can do the platforming part without getting knockback damage. Those guys will just fly down pits and kill themselves. They're just gone.
The Dogs of Destruction will.
Yeah, the Flying Hounds of Destruction are not the most intelligent of the hounds, but they do try to destruct you. They shoot bullets.
I was going to say, they don't sound very prehistoric either, unless they're like some sort of dinosaur dog or dinosaur hound.
I don't think he was limited when he made his Beast of Destruction. He was like, the Flying Pterodactyl of Destruction. I think I already used that one, so let's make this one a hound.
He could be like a raptor or something. Well, I guess they didn't exist then, right? Supposedly. Well, supposedly they existed, way back when, but they weren't talked about in Dynowarz time.
Oh, I guess not. Raptors is in the sense of like a bird of prey. That's been a raptor for a long time.
Yeah, but, like Jurassic Park raptors.
Velociraptors. No, they were just the Hounds of Destruction. I think they were trying to imply that they would seek you out, like they picked up on your smell, seek you out, but they don't. They just die by themselves if you don't kill them.
Oh. Sounds very threatening.
Not threatening at all, but just another obstacle you got to blast away.
Sure.
So it's really easy, and the only challenge to this game is the platforming sections within the human levels. Because if you defeat the computer and then on your way back you die, you have to start the level over. Not at the dinosaur, but as the human. And so you can get all the way to where you're almost done, and then you fall in a pit and you start over. That's the frustration in this game. I think that's the only real challenge.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awful. Did that happen to you at all this playthrough?
Yeah, I said fuck a lot when I was playing it. I mean, it's frustrating in a very old school punishing way. Like, why do I have to start over again because of your terrible design? But you have to.
Yeah, well, that's the old school games. But what made you like it so much as a kid? Like, what was the most memorable part about it?
I just felt like it was a game I could pop into the NES. Well, I was playing other games that were pissing me off, like the Mario games, trying to play through Solstice and Final Fantasy and all those I was playing at that time. Like, this game was great because I could pop it in and I could beat it every time. And it was one of those games that had that sort of therapeutic. I could just sit down and play through this, and I beat the game, and I feel good about it because I beat the game. It's not hard. You're essentially a bullet shield. Like, your guy is
oh, sure.
He can take a lot of damage. So as long as you don't jump down pits indiscriminately, you can beat this game. And every time you beat a set of 2 levels, you get a pass, so you can always come back and play where you left off.
Oh, cool. Yeah, when I was a kid and played the NES, there was maybe 2 games that I could actually beat. So it would have been a welcome addition to my library because I couldn't really beat anything when I was younger. There was this old Pictionary type game that I would play called Anticipation that I would just play through it and memorize all the answers. But that was one of the only games I could actually beat was that. I guess the computer.
I was actually going to mention that game.
Which isn't even really actually a game. You were? You actually had Anticipation?
I mean, I didn't have any... Well, I was anticipating saying something about it. I didn't really have much information.
Yeah, I didn't really look it up. I just thought about mentioning it just because it was a game I played a lot, to the point of where I could answer the questions before it even drew anything. But it just reminded me of that because I would play through the whole thing because it was one of the only things I could beat, So, but yeah,
I think by the time I got this game, I had beat you. But if I remember correctly, I think I was playing through DuckTales, and DuckTales took me a while to beat. I mean, I did eventually beat it. I think that this game was, like you said, a welcome addition. Something that I don't really know if I was building my reflexes by playing it or anything like that. But, I mean, it was fun to, play through it. And since it was so easy, tried to just get certain power-ups and, create self-imposed challenges, I guess. But I don't even think I did that. Yeah. It was just a game I'd pop in to know that I could beat something.
And it's just kind of like a comfort game, because I can play this and it's not as stressing as the others, right?
Exactly. There's not much stress, but the last 2 human levels, when you're Professor Proteus, there's some platforming stuff that can be a little frustrating.
Oh, sure. Well, they got to have some sort of difficulty in there in the end, right?
That's where it is. The bosses themselves are never very difficult, and I'm talking about both types. So you fight a really strong version of a dinosaur you may have already fought as a boss at the end of each level, and they recycle them a lot. I think you fight 2 pterodactyls, 2 tyrannosauruses, and 2 brontosauruses, and it's kind of hilarious because the second brontosaurus, he's all huge and he's a brontosaurus, but he can jump 4 times his body height across the screen.
Well.
and he's like firing bullets at you the whole time. So he's a little difficult, but still, with the shield, I beat him like my second try. But you have the same exact boss at the end of every human level, and there's always a spot you can stand where he can't hit you, and you can hit him. So
that's always
it's really
good to
easy
have.
to find. It's really easy to find that secret. I wouldn't even call it a secret spot. It's really easy to find that spot just by watching the path of the projectiles, and then sometimes you have to duck, sometimes you don't. There's one version where you have to like just jump and clear like a little space so your bullet gets past. So that's the only one that presents any kind of challenge, because his bullet could hit you when you jump up to be able to hit him. It's really easy to time it to where you just jump up, his bullet's not going. So maybe you'd have to play the game to understand, but it's still like a very low level of challenge.
Sure.
That's why this game is a good game to have someone play if they want to beat an old Nintendo game, and they have never done that.
Yeah, I played about like 4 levels of it, and I think I was expecting some sort of difficulty spike, but it didn't actually happen. But I didn't play it all the way through. I was like, I should. It's like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll come back to it and play it some more before it starts getting really, really hard. But now I know I could have just sat and played it. Maybe I'll do that. Is there anything else you want to say about Dynowarz? We're gonna kind of do these in short bursts just because they're like little ones that we couldn't fill a whole episode with.
About the only other thing I had to say was it received mostly negative reviews upon release. Nintendo Power gave it a 6.5 out of 10, if that's notable.
Oh, wow.
But actually, one thing about it that got praised in a lot of reviews was the soundtrack.
Oh,
so I guess that's why they had 4 composers. Like, at least they did something right?
When did it come out again? What year was it?
April of 1990.
I was 90, okay. Because I was like, I was trying to figure out when did Nintendo Power actually start giving numbers for things? Because they used to just say give like a good and a bad of it. I remember reading that where there was an actual number. It's like positive this, negative this, you know. And if it
sure.
And I remember reading through it, like if both the positive and the negative both sounded like a negative, it's probably not good. And if both the positive and the negative sound like positives, that's how I would normally gauge it when I would read through it as a kid. Because I remember they've always been kind of blamed for not really fully rating the games and basically saying that most things are good and being kind of overly positive. And I always figured that was why, was because they didn't actually give a number. It's just kind of like, here's the good side, here's the bad side, you know, basically at the beginning there. But I know like later more than 64 time they had numbers, but they might have had it for some NES ones too. But I thought maybe
I should have dug a little deeper because I got that off the Wikipedia page.
Oh, sure.
It's possible that it was wrong, I guess. But yeah, I didn't really read a lot of Nintendo Power until it was probably the mid-90s before I ever checked that magazine out. So I thought I remember there being scores.
There might have been for the NES, like when that one was, because I remember the Super Nintendo ones specifically not having numbered scores. Because I remember like the Chrono Trigger one was just like, it's like positive, like best RPG ever, and it's like negative, will make all the other RPGs seem awful. Like it was something like that. It said like it'll spoil you for other RPGs was like their negative, which I thought was funny, which isn't even a negative.
That's when like you're in like one of those conferences where you have to reveal something about yourself. Well, the negative thing about me is that sometimes I'm just too persistent in trying to get what I need to do to achieve.
Yeah.
You know, like that's actually a good quality, but you're trying to paint it as something terrible about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of like how they sounded, but it was Chrono Trigger. I mean, what else would you say? But yeah, is that are we good on Dynowarz then?
That's everything I have about Dynowarz. It came out in 1990, and it's easy, and I think it was kind of a throwaway game when it all comes down to it. It seems, playing through it does feel like it was hastily made. There's no difficulty spike, as you mentioned, for the most part, other than in the platforming. You know, it just starts to get hard, and then it's done. And it's very suddenly done. It's just like you hop on the same platform you hop onto for every level to move to the next level, and then it just says, "Congratulations, you beat the game."
Nice.
You know, there's no like final boss or anything epic that happens at the end of it. They just stopped making the levels, so that was the end of the game.
They're like, all right, we got enough. Here's the end. Were there any did you find any sort of like retrospective reviews or whatever where it's like Dynowarz now? You know, what we rate it now? Anything like that? Like any people looking back on it?
I don't think so. This game does have some like speed runs and stuff that you can find on YouTube, but as far as I can tell, it's not a game that people revisit that often.
It's worth it for if you're looking for a relaxing time, though.
It is, and you can find it on eBay for less than $10 still. It's not a rare game at all.
Nice.
So cool. You can play Dynowarz if you'd like.
I'll have to give it a try at some point.
You can also borrow my copy if you don't.
Sure. I was having a hard time trying to figure out which games to do for my side, because most of the stuff I played as a kid was crap. I played a lot of like licensed bad games. So I was like, what should I do? So I was thinking, I thought over a couple different things, but one that I got like at a fairly early age, but ended up being an actual good game, which was licensed, was the Batman game, that came out in 1990 after the Tim Burton movie. Did you ever play that game?
Yeah, I had that game and I never beat it, but I actually still own it.
It has, and speaking of soundtracks, it has a killer soundtrack, and I've used I've used a couple songs on Wart Radio. I think I've already used them on the Honey Darling show and on this show, so you've probably heard most of the soundtrack already on this podcast. But I like the jams on that game a lot, and I guess I was able to do some research. Apparently, the guy who made Blaster Master also worked on Batman before Blaster Master, which I thought was pretty cool. He was Yoshiaka Iwata ended up doing Blaster Master, but he did Batman for that, which I didn't know. There are also like a ton of like comic villains that were in there that I didn't even know were in there. I thought they were all just like henchmen, but like Heatwave and like Killer Moth and Deadshot and like KG Beast, like all these main DC characters were actually characters like in the game. Like Firebug was in there too, and like Electrocutioner. And apparently the game was developed like originally as just a Batman game, and they kind of just stuck a couple cutscenes in there that had to do with the movie, and just put an end level that was the Cathedral and stuck the Joker on there. There's actually, I forget which version it's for, but there is a version that doesn't have the Joker in it, where it just ends with the Firebug that came out before it was going to be associated with the movie. I always thought that was kind of weird, like playing it through as a kid, because they had these little cutscenes in between that showed parts from the movie, but they had absolutely nothing to do with the game. And now it makes sense as to why they did that. It's like you play through a level and then it'll show the Joker being like, saying like, you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? And then it just goes to the next level. It's like, okay. What did you say?
Oh, so yeah. I'm following what you say. So they were just using the film to try to sell more copies.
Yeah, I guess they were originally working on it as a Batman game. Like maybe they didn't know anything from the movie at the time, or I'm not sure how it actually came together. Like that it ended up being a movie game. But I think they just tacked some of that stuff on in the end to try to incorporate it with because it was a Japanese made game of Batman. So maybe they didn't know about the movie. I don't know. This was like the 80s, so it wasn't the same like with the internet and like being able to send out like scripts or being like, I make it like this, But apparently the actual game was much more based on the comic book, because it had a lot of comic book characters in it, and then they just kind of like stuck a couple things in there to make it look like the movie, which makes sense now. But it's still a lot of fun to play. I think the control's pretty good on it. I mean, it's a really tough game. Like even like at one point, I remember when I think it was when Dark Knight came out. I had this in my apartment. I was doing what I called Batmania, and I was just gonna play and watch all the Batman stuff that I had. And I was determined to beat the Batman game on NES, and I still have the copy that I had as a kid. And I remember using some sort of Game Genie code with it to where I was like invincible and like had unlimited lives and all that. And I still couldn't beat it because the very last level has like kind of what you were talking about with Dynowarz, where like if you fall off a certain thing, you have to start back at the beginning. Like similar, where if you die, you start back way too far, so it becomes incredibly frustrating. And even with like unlimited lives and unlimited health, I couldn't do it, just because of how hard the platforming was at the very end, which sucks. So I was never actually able to get through that game, even though I tried very hard.
Maybe you need to boot it up on an emulator with save states.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I tried playing it. I played it today, like on the actual NES, and I made it to like the third level, I think. Yeah, like the third level is as far as I made it. Because there's like, in the third level, you're in these sewer levels, and there's these gigantic like monster things jumping at you. And if you don't have any of your weapons, like, they'll completely destroy you. So, like, you have to kind of, like, farm the weapons, like, and keep them, like, through each. Because the boss before that uses a lot of the weapons, too, so you're mostly out of them at the beginning. It's difficult. Like, if you don't have, like, the Batarang or the spear gun or anything like that, those guys in the sewer will destroy you.
I think this is one of the first games that we had. I don't think we had a whole lot of games before we got this Batman game. I've never beaten it. In fact, I don't know how far I've gotten into it. It was one of those games I played where I was just like, fuck this game.
Yeah, I think there's only like 5 or 6 like full levels, because Because there's like the first level, and then you fight Killer Moth, and then there's the second level, and you fight that machine in the second level, and then the third level is where I get stuck in the sewers with the big guys. But I think at the end of that, it's like Electrocutioner, and then it's Firebug, and then it's Joker. So I think there's only like 5 level sets in the whole thing, where it's basically like level boss, level boss, level boss. So it's actually not that long. It's just the levels are really fucking hard, and at least there's like not unlimited continues, so you can like play it forever until you beat it. It's like how much torture can you take, you know? Especially when you get to the cathedral level.
Being tough, but you're correct. The music's really good. And do you like stick to walls? I feel like you can stick to walls.
Yeah, no, it was one of the first games that had where you could jump off the walls. Even though I think that Ninja Gaiden probably came out before this. I think they had probably done the wall jumping before that, but it's considered to be like one of the earlier ones where you can do the wall kicks. But yeah, that was the first game that I ever played where you could do that, where you could jump from one wall to another. And in Ninja Gaiden, you can actually stick to it.
Yeah, I think that's the reason I came back to the game, because I'd still boot it up and play it.
Yeah, there's some cool little shortcuts that you can do with the wall jumping, and their jumps feel like very like pressure sensitive, even though it's not like analog buttons. It kind of feels like it for different parts where you have to jump shorter ways, and it's difficult. There's a lot of different stuff that you have to do in it, but yeah, it plays really well. Like I think the control's great. Like the soundtrack's good. It's hard as shit, but it's cool. I like how many characters are in there. Like there were these guys with like flamethrowers, which I never really thought that was Heatwave, but apparently that's Heatwave, who's now like a character on CW. He's on Legends of Tomorrow, like he's an actual character from that. Same with like Deadshot. Deadshot's played by Will Smith now in the upcoming movie of the Suicide Squad. So those characters from that game are coming through now. But yeah, it was a cool game. And it's one of those that like I kind of just lucked into getting a good one. And I didn't like do research on it, but the sequel to that, Batman Return of the Joker, I liked a lot as well. That was kind of more like a Contra type game, but I remember being like blown away by the graphics on that because I felt like it looked like a Super Nintendo game on the NES before the Super Nintendo was out.
Were you disappointed there was no Bat Dance?
I don't think I knew what the Bat Dance was when it came out, so no.
Oh.
Well, I didn't find out about like the 60s Batman stuff until like after the movie, because I remember they started playing it on TV, but that was way after I'd gotten that game, so I wasn't really looking for the Bat Dance.
I will say this game looks really nice for being from the late 80s,
I think it's aged well, and I think it's still, I think it's still like probably like I'd give it like an 80% out of 100, I guess, as a score still. I think it's like an 8 out of 10 still for what it is.
This is a lot harder than Dynowarz.
It is a lot harder than Dynowarz on the level of difficulty. How hard is Deja Vu?
Deja Vu is a different kind of game, so if you consult a walkthrough, it's really easy.
Is it like Shadowgate, where you can like beat it in like 20 minutes if you know where everything is? And if
you're correct,
it'll take you like 2 years.
Yeah, there are videos online of people beating it less than 10 minutes.
They
use some exploits. There's some like glitches. Glitches to work.
Was Deja Vu, was it made by the same company as Shadowgate? Because I played through some of it today, and it reminded me a lot of Shadowgate.
Well, are we talking about Deja Vu now?
Yeah, I think I talked about Batman for enough. That was my segue to Deja Vu.
All right, let's talk about Deja Vu a little bit. All right, so you are correct, sir. Deja Vu, the edition on NES, was made by Kemco, who also made Shadowgate game. But interesting to me, and I didn't know it until I dug down, this episode. This game Deja Vu originally came out in 1985 on the Mac. It was originally a Mac. It was made by a company, Mindscape, who also made
Mortal Kombat?
Shadowgate. Oh, they did?
Mindscape also did one of the Mortal Kombat ports for Super Nintendo.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, but they also made Shadowgate, so back all the way to the source in the mid-'80s.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they were made by on the same engine.
Yeah, from the way it looks, it feels like it's a mouse-based game, because it has a lot of pointing and clicking and all that. And just for me playing it a little bit, I felt like it had to have been developed for a computer. It felt like a computer game.
It was it was called the Mac Venture series. And when it came out in '85, Deja Vu was the first one to be released. And then subsequently, there were 2 other games released, Uninvited, Shadowgate. So they all ran on the same engine, the Mac Venture engine. And that was sort of like the Mac point-and-click interface for those games that established that would be used for several adaptations afterwards. The original version of Deja Vu was monochrome, and it didn't really have music. It just had random sound samples. But it pretty much looked the same. I haven't played it. The version that was released on NES in 1990 was far superior. It had music, it had full color, it had I don't know if the instant save feature was in the original version, but you can save at any point in this game. So that's nice.
Yes, yeah, I noticed that. That was a really cool thing, like for back then. Oh,
so
Mindscape.
Before you make a choice, you can save right before. If you fuck up, you can reload your save.
What I was thinking about, it was actually not Mortal Kombat, but another game that I thought about doing but didn't actually do was Captain America and the Avengers. It was an NES game that I used to play a lot. Not really that good, but I had fun with it. It was actually made by Mindscape too, so if I would have done that, we could have had a connection between the 2 games, but I didn't.
Another connection.
Did you get Deja Vu like when you were younger also? Like when did you play that first?
So yeah, this is why this goes back to the anticipation thing. So we got a lot of games, once we had the NES. My parents both played it too. So we bought a lot of games, especially bought used games because they were cheap. And we were at the right point in time where people were like moving on to the Super Nintendo, so they were selling off all their Nintendo games. So my parents played. I remember my mom loved Deja Vu. That was her. She played it all the time. I didn't play it back in the day. I just watched her play it. And same with Tetris was one of the games that I'd always see the adults playing. Pipe Dreams. Did you ever play Pipe Dreams?
Yeah. I mean, I played it when I was a kid. I don't really remember much of what it was, but I remember the name.
Yeah, it's another one of those puzzle games where as a kid you're not going to get much excitement out of it, but once you start to apply critical thinking, it's a fun, challenging game. But yeah, and then the other game I remember them playing is Anticipation. They'd always play multiplayer Anticipation, and we'd watch them play that. So that's why I was going to mention that earlier. These were the adult games, and Deja Vu was one of them.
I was going to say, did you memorize all of the answers like I did and be able to answer it before it drew anything?
I didn't play it.
So you could defeat your parents. Oh, you didn't? Just your parents did?
Yeah. They'd play with my cousins. So it would be 4 adults playing and us sitting around watching them play. Oh yeah, the other game they played was Magic Darts, which is like a dart.
I think I've heard that name.
That's another obscure NES game from my past.
Yeah.
A really simple dart game, but there's actually little codes and cheats in it. So.
I can only imagine how darts would be on NES. I mean, I never really played any. Yeah, I was gonna say I never actually really played any dart games that I thought were cool until WarioWare Smooth Moves. I thought that had cool darts on it. When the Wii came around, I was like, then you could play virtual dart games. But I never really thought of any of it working before that. But Magic Darts, I guess I'll have to try it out.
But I think if I remember correctly, we bought Deja Vu at KB Toys, which no longer exists.
Yeah, KB Toys in the mall.
But yeah, they were having this crazy sale on Nintendo games, and I'm pretty sure my parents paid $30 for this game.
Oh, nice. I remember
this game my mom really wanted. I think they bought that, and I think they bought MC Kids, which is another obscure game.
I remember MC Kids. That's like an awful McDonald's game, right?
It's actually kind of a fun platformer, but yeah, it is the IP kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember talk of it not being that good, but I haven't played it in a while, so I don't know.
It's actually pretty fun from what I remember, but maybe I'm skewed in my memory.
Maybe. I don't know.
But so Deja Vu first came out in 1985, like I said before, and then it just got ported over and over again. So it came out on DOS in 1987. So, IBM compatibles, I think they called them back then. And then 1988, it was released on the Famicom. So it came out in Japan first, like every other game at that time. And then it finally came to the NES in 90, and then Europe got it in 92. So yeah, there's a little more history. This game was released over and over again. They even released a Game Boy Color version that I didn't know this in 1999.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
It contains Deja Vu, and the subtitle, which isn't always included, A Nightmare Come True, or A Nightmare Comes True, with its sequel, Deja Vu 2, Lost in Las Vegas, which I have not played, but I think I might want to buy this game. It's got both versions on it, and it's portable.
That must have been around the same time as when the Shadowgate Game Boy Color game came out, right? Because I remember buying that new. Like I bought that new, and my friend Aaron, who I went to college with, he told me, he's like, oh yeah, Shadowgate. Like he had that when he was a kid, and he said it took him 2 years to beat it. Like, you know, back in the day when there's no internet or anything. It took him 2 years to figure out all the stuff in the game and actually get through it. And same sort of thing. Now that he knew everything, he played my Game Boy Color version of it and beat it in 20 minutes. But that's just, you know, those sorts of game only really, you know, could only really work that well in a time when there was no internet and all that.
Yep, and it's a lot of trial and error, but it's save states before save states, you know. You save right before you do something, and then you go back to your file. But I don't know. There's actually a story to this game, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's actually a cool story. Do we want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, one more thing before you get into the story. I just wanted to mention that in Deja Vu and Shadowgate, you can kill yourself, which I thought was pretty cool. You can use the gun on yourself, and you can use the sword on yourself in both games, and it'll automatically game over after that. I don't know if you did that on either of those, but I always thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah, when I use items on yourself is critical to this game.
Yeah, because you could do the same thing. Like in Shadowgate, I remember I actually laughed because I thought it was hilarious. Where it's like use sword on yourself, and it's like you put sword through your heart, and then it shows like the death's head. And I remember laughing and being like, "That's hilarious!" That I just made myself kill myself. And then when I played Deja Vu today, I was like, gun, self, and it's like, and you shoot yourself, and I'm like, awesome, that's cool. It works for both of them. So little side note there, you could kill yourself on there, which is pretty cool.
There's a lot of stuff in this game, like, and I haven't played much of Shadowgate, but there's a lot of stuff in this game that probably wouldn't fly today. And I can get into that a little bit. I mean, it's a 32-year-old game, or 31-year-old game, essentially. So it takes place in Chicago.
Oh, it does? I didn't catch that.
In the 40s. It is immediately after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So it takes place in 1941. The way you find that out is, like, you walk by a newsstand at one point, and you can look at a newspaper. You have to pay, like, a quarter for it. And then it just, the headline is, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. So, you know, that's what's happening while everything else is going on. Gives context to it. But it's a very, like, you know, hard-boiled, private eye detective kind of story. You wake up in the stall of a bathroom, and you don't know who you are. You have blood all over your hands, and you're just completely confused about what's going on. You've got a really bad headache. It says you have a headache that feels like you just had a crazy weekend in Vegas. So, you know, it makes reference. It's a sequel.
Yeah, so that's Deja Vu 2 is what happened in Vegas, right?
Right. And apparently it stayed there, because I haven't seen that sequel yet. But from that point on, you know, the game is just, you walk around and you, like, try to surmise what the fuck's up. Who am I? Why do I have this awesome detective trench coat and this gun? I don't know if I'm a detective, but, you know, I've got all this detective gear.
That would make sense. If you were.
Yeah, and then you have to start being a detective right away. So you're just using your skills you don't know you have. But basically from the get-go, you're just clicking on different things and figuring out what they mean and collecting items. You know, it would work a lot better with a mouse. You're just selecting options and examining items and surmising information, and then you get addresses. Addresses are like the most important thing you can get, because then you ride in the taxi cabs to different spots and collect more evidence there. Essentially, the story, spoiler alert, essentially the story is that you are a private eye.
No way.
Named Ace. Yeah, you are. Your name is Ace Harding. Someone's trying to frame you for kidnapping someone, and you're not down with it. You're like, no, I don't want to be part of this kidnapping. This is a terrible idea. So they give you a drug to take away your memory, and then they kill someone who happens to be your bookie that you owe money to. And they put the murder weapon in, like, your hands. So you have that gun that was the murder weapon, you know, like, in your possession from the beginning. Oh. You don't know it, but that's what you have. So this game's pretty gritty. Like, you find a dead body pretty early on. You have to, like, search the pockets of the dead body to get crucial evidence. While you're out wandering the streets, people will try to mug you, and you have to fight back or give them money. It depends on the situation, you know. It's context sensitive.
How does the fighting work in the game? Like, I'm sure it's not like, do you have to, like, click on something quick enough, or is it just like how does that work with the interface?
There's no time. Nothing's time based. You just have to make the right decision. So you'll have the guy with his gun pointing at you, and you select hit, and then you point at him, and then you punch him.
Yes. So it's not really like a real time fighting, but it's kind of like, yeah. It's just like you're hit. Yeah, I understand.
In the meantime, you just have to try not to get arrested because you're being framed for a murder. So you have to like keep your nose clean, so to speak. Like if you ride in a cab, you have to make sure you can pay them. The only way to pay them is to like find the secret speakeasy that's inside of the bar that you start out and play the slot machine until you have enough coins to where you won't run out. No matter what, if you only have one coin left, you'll always win the slot machine. So
oh, nice.
at least it's forgiving that way.
If only life worked like that. When it's like my last one, and you actually win from it.
But let me get into the things that may be uncomfortable about this. So it's a point and click adventure. You just have to do things in a set sequence. There's a certain point where you have to give drugs to yourself, so that makes sense with the self thing you were mentioning before.
Yeah.
You can kill yourself, but you can also use drugs on yourself. There's like 7 or 8 different drugs. You have to know the right one to use at the right time.
Can you overdose? If you use the right, you can kill yourself? Yeah.
And if you... no, you can't overdose on the right drug. Sorry. But you can take the wrong one and die.
Okay. I thought maybe if there was a certain combination, the combination's wrong, that could be fatal too.
No, but you have to do it at the right time, or if you walk into a certain point of the game, you'll just die because you haven't regained your memory yet. And it like overwhelms you and you die.
Oh, wow.
So you have to figure out a way to get your memory back. But one thing so there's part of it is like it's a kidnapping. So it's a framing for kidnapping. And at one point you find an unconscious woman in the trunk of a car. She's got a gag on, and her feet and her hands are bound. And it describes her as a 400-pound woman. She's just a huge woman. So it's not very tactful at all about that. It's just like, she's the biggest woman I've ever seen. She's huge.
Yeah.
And me being, just want to try things out, I selected hit and punched her. And it says exactly kind of what you would expect it to say, like, the fat ripples, but she doesn't feel the punch. It describes like waves of fat when you punch her.
And she doesn't kill you afterwards?
No, she just doesn't even notice.
Oh, wow.
But you end up having to give, spoiler alert, you end up having to give her a different drug that you take yourself, which is the truth drug, sodium pentothal. So basically you have to drug her, and she gives you an address to go to. And that's the only way you can get the address, is by drugging this unconscious woman in a trunk.
Weird.
The nice thing is that you take her gag off first. You can't put the pill in her mouth. There's a gag.
I guess that's a nice thing.
And then the second thing is, and then you just leave her in the trunk and go about your business. But the other time is like you find out through the evidence that there's a woman that went to prison for a previous kidnapping charge it's a case that you solved, and you encounter her and you have to punch her.
Oh.
So you basically, it's like, she's like, I have something in my purse to show you, and she's reaching for a gun to kill you, and you have to punch her. So you just like have to knock her unconscious. And that's
sure.
Kind of, I don't know if that would fly nowadays, like in this kind of a narrative, maybe in a game where everybody's like decked out in armor and they all have guns, you can punch a woman. But when it's a lady just like hanging out on the street, she's like, hey, how's it going? I just wanted to talk to you about something. Here, I have something to show you in my purse. The only way to get past that is to punch her.
Oh, it was the 40s. It was a different time then.
One of these days. But she blocks your path to the police station. So that's another funny thing, because at the very end of the game, once you have all of your evidence to prove you're innocent, and then you destroy all of the evidence that could make you look guilty. So, that's kind of shady too. Like that gun I mentioned earlier, that was the murder weapon. You have to dispose of it.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't dispose of it, then you lose the game.
Sure.
Because that's the gun that was used to kill the dead body.
Yeah, and it would come back to you if you didn't get rid of it.
Yeah, but right before you go to the police station and turn yourself in and then present the evidence and exonerate yourself, that's when you punch that woman out. And she's just laying on the street right outside the police station.
Well, I guess it would just get like a higher rating, right? Because you should whenever you look into that Game Boy Advance or the Game Boy Color release of it or whatever, look if it has a rating on it. Because I think in the late 90s they were putting ratings on stuff, right? I think Shadowgate probably got a teen rating or whatever. I wonder what the rating is for that. Should look at it, because it would have the little details of whatever it is. So that one would say like domestic abuse or well, I guess it wouldn't really be domestic, but female hating or whatever. I don't know. Female punching involved.
Gender violence.
Teen rating. Yeah.
I don't know. I would be curious, because going way back several episodes when I was talking about like when they got rid of the scene where Celes gets beat in Final Fantasy.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VI.
I wonder if they got rid of that in the re-release. I'd like to see that. That's something interesting that I might want to check out. I don't know how it would work, because there's only 3 people you encounter that want to kill you, and she's one of them. Out of 3 in the whole game. So
sure,
they would have had to replace her. Maybe they'll replace her with the male characters. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because you live in Chicago, do these addresses make much sense to you? Is there a Kedzie Street in Chicago?
There is a Kedzie Street, yeah. It's actually not very far from me.
How about Peoria?
I'm sure. Yeah, there's a Peoria Street somewhere.
There's probably a lot of streets in Chicago. It was smaller then, but yeah. So the addresses you go to visit in the game, it's like Peoria Street's where the bar is on that you're initially found. You travel to Kedzie, I think is where your office is, and then Sherman and West End, I think is where there's like a condo you go to, and then Ashburn Road is where Auburn Road is where like you go to like a mansion. But in one of the notes that you read, the kidnappers are demanding ransom, and they say they'll meet at the corner of Peoria and Elm. That's where the kidnappers were going to meet to like collect the ransom. So I don't know if that actually existed in Chicago. There's a Peoria and Elm.
I don't know. I just did a quick search of Deja Vu on Game Boy Color. IGN gave it a 4 out of 10 for a review. Okay. So they called it bad for whatever reason. The Game Boy version
did not stand the test of time.
I don't know. I felt like I thought they gave Shadowgate a decent review, but I don't remember. I mean, maybe there was some sort of play control problems with it. I don't know.
Well, it's possible it was a bad conversion. Because I know,
yeah, that's what I mean.
I was looking up, Crystallis was another obscure game I wanted to play, and I knew they made a Game Boy Color version of it. So I was researching that. Basically, some of the reviews I read said that the sound was really, really bad. It wasn't true to the original.
Sure.
So maybe there's some kind of like gripe along those lines with the conversion, or maybe it just doesn't stand the test of time. The interface is made for a mouse. So
sure.
With a D-pad, it's just kind of like, I have to move all the way over here. Then I have to move all the way over here.
I found there's a Chicago in Peoria Street. I didn't see it. I didn't see a Peoria now. But, they made I don't know if the people who made it had actually been to Chicago. And it doesn't really matter whether that's actually a street or not. You don't actually have to go there. But
no, it doesn't matter. I was just curious because you live in Chicago. This game takes place. But I did beat this game. I beat this game for the first time in my life today.
Did you do it with help, or did you figure it out on your own?
I did. I'd always gotten to the point where I didn't know what to do, and that's when I found out you had to give the drug to the lady in the trunk. I never would have thought to do that.
Oh yeah. That's those type of games like it was always kind of hard for me to play because, like I said, I got the Shadowgate for Game Boy Color, and I got it at the time where internet was it wasn't on phones, but it was pretty easy to use like on a computer, and I just kind of went online and found everything and played through it, and I was like, well, that wasn't really that fun. I kind of wish I didn't have the temptation to get on the internet, and I would have had to just think about it. Well, then it would have taken like multiple years to beat or whatever, but I kind of wish I would have played through it in that way.
Yeah, this game, if it was all trial and error, would take a really long time to beat, because not only do you have to, that's how you get the last address, where you get the final piece of evidence you need to exonerate yourself. So in order to get the address, you have to give the drug to the lady in the trunk. Then on top of that, you have to dispose of all the evidence that was being used to frame you. So you have to make sure to grab all that when you're in the different locations and then dispose of it. So without the internet helping me, it would have taken forever to know, I need to get rid of all this stuff.
Sure.
It can't be in my possession when I go to the police to, try to end the game. So yeah, you have to dispose of a lot of things, and you have to know how to react to certain events, the different muggers that approach you. I think one of them, I've only ran into one of the muggers once, and he ended up defeating me, but I think you have to give him some weird random item that just happens to make him run away. I don't even think it's money, and I haven't researched that much because you don't run into all the muggers necessarily if you play through it perfectly, but different events and different sequences of things bring out certain things that happen. You just have to know how to react. And if you don't react correctly, either you lose important items or you just die after restart.
Sure. But you can, if you saved it, you can start from wherever that is, right? With the quick
Exactly.
save. Yeah.
But I think that the game, I don't know. So it's possible it may not allow you to dispose of evidence that you need. I guess I haven't tried to just throw everything away and see if it made me keep certain things. What you do is you go down into the deepest, darkest depths of the sewer and you throw it into the sewer water. That's how you dispose of evidence. And it's very shady.
The sewer will take it away to somewhere where nobody will find it. I guess if it's gross enough, it'll disintegrate in there.
Yeah, there's
toxic
gator
enough.
There's a gator in the sewer in Chicago in 1940.
Well, according to comic books, there's gators in the sewer in New York also.
You do run into a gator at one. If you play at a certain.
Yeah, I've never heard of alligators in sewers here, but I wasn't alive in the '40s, so who knows?
It was a different time, man.
I bet. Did you ever play the Shadowgate sequel on Nintendo 64?
No.
Well, they made one. It was okay. I remember playing a little bit of it, but they made it like a what?
Was it still a point and click game?
I mean, it was still like a puzzle based thing, but I don't think it was point and click. I don't know. It's been a while, but it was like 3D, and it was similar thing where you have to like find your way out of a castle or like into you have to find secret doors and that type of thing.
Well, I could actually see the control stick being useful for a point and click game. It would work a lot better than a D-pad.
But I don't think there was like a mouse. There wasn't a mouse thing on the screen. I remember that. I think you just kind of. I think it just basically had like a cursor, and it was like first person, and you kind of point at things like that. Because it was actually a fully 3D thing. I don't know. I'd play that again if I could find it. Like either one, Shadowgate 1 or 2 on 64.
I've got my eyes on a Nintendo 64. I might buy. So we'll see. Maybe if I do, I'll try to get hold of this game if it's not expensive.
Yeah, I'll have to look into seeing how much it is.
Because I did just buy Shadowgate on the Game Boy Color. When I bought the Dragon Quest game, I also bought Shadowgate, and I've been playing a little bit of it. It's hard.
Yeah, it's just as hard as Deja Vu, I'm sure.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I think. It's less, like, intuitive because Deja Vu takes place in the real world, so, you're like, oh, well, I gotta open this safe that I see.
Yeah.
And get inside of that folder. Whereas in Shadowgate, it's like, I have to light this torch that makes this rune. Or not a rune. It makes the skull open its mouth, or I can't even remember how I made the skull open its mouth. But.
Or you gotta pull like a torch down that'll open a door or whatever. Or there's doors that you can't see. I remember that. There's like a door like in the middle of a hallway that I couldn't see the door, but there's actually a door there. Like stuff like that where it's like you wouldn't really figure it out. Or it's
there is one secret passageway in Deja Vu where you have to push a wine bottle in a wine rack. So there's like several bottles displayed, and you have to push the one that's the cleanest looking one.
Did you ever play Hotel Dusk? Did you ever play that on DS?
No.
It was like it's basically kind of like Deja Vu a little bit. It's like a point and click adventure. You hold the DS like a book. It was really good. Like it all looked like hand drawn, like all the art in it did. But that's if you could find that cheap somewhere, it's totally worth getting. I remember enjoying it a lot. It was like a detective like investigating some sort of murder that happened at this hotel or whatever. But it was cool. It was a cool game.
I've heard a lot of good things about that game. Other people too. So.
Yeah, Conan had it, and I played his copy of it and really liked it. Is that all you have to say about Deja Vu? We can move on to our last game.
Yeah, that's it for Deja Vu.
Last but not least, or maybe least, I don't know. A game I used to play as a kid was a game called Immortal, which was actually a port of Wizard of the Immortal, which was an Apple game as well, which was ported to NES. Made by a famous dude named Will Harvey, who I guess went on to make a company called There Incorporated, who became a big part of basically doing MMOs. His company did. So he ended up going on to do a lot of shit. Apparently, he made a game. He made a game for Apple like when he was fairly young. He was like a Silicon Valley genius, whatever. He made a game called the Music Construction Set, which was like the first type of computer game where you can make music like on a computer, like for like old Apple II stuff, which I thought was pretty interesting. I didn't realize that he had done all this shit. He actually works on he has an instant message company that he does right now, where you can see like a 3D, or you have like a 3D avatar of yourself or whatever that you can talk to people. So thought that was kind of cool.
Sounds like he's moved on to more of the social side of computing.
Yeah, he only made like so many games, or only the ones his ones that he was known for. It's only like 4 or 5 games. He made a game called like Zany Golf, which I think I'd heard of, but I didn't actually play. And I guess he did the port of Marble Madness too for NES. Like he ported that game to the NES.
That's kind of a big deal.
way back when. So yeah, he had done some shit, and I
game
kind of
gets a lot of favorable mentions, like
Sure.
being an inspiration for Monkey Ball.
Yeah, he ported the arcade game to NES, and he actually stuck a. I guess he was notorious for having secrets in games, and he stuck a secret level in there that apparently the guy who made the game didn't even know about. Until after the fact. He just kind of stuck it in there while he was porting it, which I thought was pretty cool. Apparently there's a secret part in Immortal where you can meet all the characters, where you can meet the people who made the game also. There's like a hallway, like if you walk down it a certain way for like 10 minutes, you'll end up running into like animated versions of the guys who created the game. And
that sounds like Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, and the Mission Impossible game on 64 had an ending like that too. But Chrono Trigger was way better. But yeah, it's like I guess one of the people that he worked with on the game, he was like very adamant about having coffee in the morning. So if you go up to his character and don't hand him a pot of coffee, he'll kill you. Which I thought was funny. But yeah, this was it's like an RPG of sorts, kind of. It's like an isometric game where you move around as this wizard-looking guy, this old dude with a beard with long hair, in a room. He walks over to a candle and sees a vision of his mentor, Wardamir. Wardamir tells him that he's trapped somewhere, and he refers to him as Dunrick. The game tells you that your name is not Dunrick. And then, of course, if you look for him, you find a dead Dunrick in the next room on the ground. And there's like 7 different like labyrinth type things, and there's like separate fighting screens, I guess, where you fight like these gargoyle troll type people. I don't know. I was overly impressed with it as a kid because I just thought it looked really good, and like kind of along the same lines of Deja Vu, is that it was a very mature game. Like it had a lot of like fairly graphic deaths for the time. Like there were like trapdoors where snakes would like eat you, or like your character would burn and there would be like a pile of ashes like after he burned, or like or he would get like impaled by like poison daggers and stuff like that would come out of the wall. So it's just like stuff I had never seen before, and I thought the animation was really good on it. But it looks great, but it's incredibly hard. Like I could only get like a little bit into the second level, just kind of because of the way the control works, and just like there's traps everywhere and there's guys constantly attacking you. It's real difficult to get through, but it was cool just for what it was, because I liked the way it looked, and it was an early Electronic Arts game. Also, it was an EA game, believe it or not, and yeah, I realized that it had this like major PC guy behind it, and also port of an Apple game, and it was one of those things that I played it, like I rented it and played it, and I ended up buying it from the rental place for like probably like $3, I think. It still has like the number painted on the side of it. I still have the cartridge. I played it today from the one I had when I was a kid, but it had like a password system like for each level, so at least you could continue, but it was like a 10, 15 number thing, so it was kind of hard to remember. But it was an interesting game.
How does the gameplay work?
Well, it's basically, like I said, you're an isometric dude. You walk around. Basically, A and B both shoot a fireball out of you, like when you're in the regular isometric level. When you walk up to people and talk to them. There's these goblin guys that attack you, and then there's a separate attack screen for that, where where like A dodges and B swipes with your sword. So you basically kind of push a direction and hit B to hit him, or you push a direction, hit A, and try to dodge when he hits you. And then you go through that until he's dead, and that's that part. And then you walk around in the isometric part and look out for traps, and you find like different items that you use on different things. Like there's this one part where there's like a beam of light coming through a wall, and you find like an amulet that you put under the light, which will like reflect it to another thing that'll open a door. Like that kind of stuff. Like sort of like a point and click thing, but you can like walk through it and do it, So
it's like you're actually navigating your character to the spots.
Yeah. But it's not really fully action. It's just mostly just trying to avoid stuff.
The battles seem to imply some sort of like strategy.
Yeah, and then the battle parts are like more action, and it's kind of mostly what I do is I just hold right and hit A until I kill the guy, which works sometimes or doesn't. It's kind of, the dodge is a little difficult. I mean, the whole game on itself is difficult, but it looked really nice for 1990. It came out in like November of 1990. And is
this one of those games you could beat with a Game Genie, maybe?
Yeah, I never tried the Game Genie on this one. I'm surprised I didn't. I guess there's passwords. I could find passwords for the later levels, I guess, and I try to get farther. I just the farthest I remember getting is like into maybe like halfway through the second level. I played it today and I made it to the second level. And there's like I remember that you could find like piles of straw that you could sleep in the game to get some of your life back, which I thought was interesting. There's like different levels where you can do that, like different rooms.
There's no room at the end.
Yeah. But it's like, it basically like goes like room to room, and each room you got to figure out how to get to the next part. So it's like pretty much puzzle based, but it's fun. It's fun for what it is. I found it more interesting from like what the guy had done like previous and what he had done after, that the dude was the main guy.
So you may see some like archaic foreshadowing of like his future work, MMORPG stuff, socials.
In Immortal, apparently Immortal
Maybe.
was originally supposed to be a multiplayer game, but when he got through it, he decided it would only work single player. I couldn't imagine like what that game would have been as a multiplayer game, but I don't know. It was just one of those things. Like I remember finding it, and it was just interesting to show to people just because it looked really cool. You know, I could be like, "Oh, check this out! Like this animation is great," or like, "Look at how detailed this guy is." It like kind of became like one of those type of games. You know, where I would always rent it to show it to like friends when we had sleepovers or whatever. And I ended up buying it later, and it's one that kind of stuck with me. And I'd forgotten about it until like a couple days ago when I was trying to think of like games that I played that were interesting. And I was like, "Oh, that should talk about that fucking weird Immortal game." And then thankfully, I found it and I still had it.
Is it like a rare game? Do you know?
I don't know what prices it's going for online. I didn't really look. I didn't really look at eBay. I would think that it was rare because I don't even remember seeing it in stores. I just found the only time I found it was at that rental place. But I haven't really researched it.
I think you could buy both of the games I discussed. If you bought both of them, you could probably get it for less than $20.
Dynowarz and Deja Vu.
Yeah, neither of them are terribly rare.
I don't think it's very rare. I just did a quick search on eBay, and there's people are selling them for like $10 for NES for the Immortal with manual, $10.
Yep,
so.
That's a good indicator. If it has the manual and it's $10.
Yeah, so I guess it's not that. But when I was a kid, I thought it was limited just because I didn't see it anywhere. But yeah, you can.
Although I've watched some like videos where people are trying to make complete collections. They're like, don't think just because it's cheap that it's not rare, because some people just, some games are just not games people want to buy. So if you're trying to like get a hold of them, do it now.
So they become rare. Yeah.
Eventually, that will be like something people want.
Sure. My friend Justin, like he was trying to collect all of the NES games, and I actually have an old interview with him, which I was going to probably put up on the site at some point. But yeah, like some of the stuff that he said was rare was just. It wasn't even really good games. It's just like stuff that was limited release or whatever, that he was trying to find. Like I think like one of the track and field games. It wasn't like the one with the pad, but there's another one that he said that was really rare that he couldn't find. And I know like those Tengen Kart ones were pretty rare too.
Yeah, I'd love to get a hold of Tengen Tetris.
Which I guess those don't. On the subject of the emulator, I guess those Tengen Karts don't work on those, and I guess that's kind of why they figured out that it was a ROM thing or that it was an emulation.
I need to try that. I have a Clax, which is a Tengen game.
Well, I mean, it'll probably work on the Famiclone, but I mean, like the Retron 8, like won't play it.
I should try that. I haven't tried that game. I have it. That's the only Tengen game I have is the Clax.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I could say. I mean, I can't really say a whole lot about Immortal because I couldn't really get very far through it, but it's worth watching some stuff online. If you can find some playthroughs or whatever. I don't think it's aged very well, I guess. Just because of the steep difficulty, but it does look like a nice game, and it was enjoyable back when I was 10. It was just like you would never really see a game like that on NES. And like I said, the deaths were fairly graphic for the time, and it's just, it was different. Like you didn't really see a whole lot of isometric labyrinth adventure RPG-ish type games like that at that time. So it kind of blew me away when I was younger.
I think that shows some credit to your younger self that you were trying to play something more cerebral.
Yeah, well, probably because I wasn't very good at the more reflex based games. So if I would have understood the way Dragon Warrior worked when I was a kid, I would have stuck with it later. Because the thing about those type of games is like, it may seem really hard at first, but if you just keep playing it, then eventually you'll beat it. Because you'll just level up and get more stronger, and then you'll be able to beat the game. If I would have understood that, I would have stuck with it longer.
Which I guess is one common gripe that goes all the way back to the day. Supposedly even Miyamoto himself has said he doesn't like RPGs because you just keep playing them, and then eventually you win because you get strong.
Yeah. I've heard him say that also. That's how he feels. I kind of like that about those games though, because you can't really work yourself into a corner, which I would normally do. Like with Resident Evil games, like Resident Evil 2, I never beat it because I got stuck on the last boss without enough ammo. Same thing with Resident Evil Revelations on 3DS. I can't fucking beat it because I don't have enough bullets to beat the fucking dude at the end, And it's annoying, and there's nothing I can do about it, and I don't want to start the whole game over again. At least, in the RPGs, it's possible for you to, like, just level up for a while and then come back, and then you can beat the guy, Unless
and even in Deja Vu, if you run out of coins, you have one coin left. You'll always win the slot machine.
Exactly. You can always win that slot machine. But I think we've covered enough. We're like at 2+ hours here. I mean, it'll probably be a little bit less whenever I edit it, but I think that's probably good for episode 26. We give
Can
you a
I
short.
tell one little story about something else that's kind of related, but kind of unrelated?
Sure.
All right, so as you know, I recently got my Family clone, and I was testing out different games I had. I pulled out I had a copy of Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt. I just wanted to play first Mario, and it was my copy I had, because I have a few copies of that game, but this copy has like a manual, and it's in a case and everything, so it's the one I guess I decided somewhere in the past that I was not going to play. Well, I pulled it out to test it out on the Family clone, and as I pulled it out, something fell out and clanked to the table. I'm like, what the hell was that? It was my copy of Wind Waker for GameCube. I thought I lost it. I haven't seen it in 7 or 8 years.
Oh wow!
I guess my dumbass self put the disc inside of the that black sleeve that NES cartridges in.
Yeah, you didn't have a case for it. Yeah,
I didn't, so I popped it in there. But what was even funnier was that same day when I was looking through my NES games, I was going through this cabinet where I've kind of compiled all of my random video game stuff that I have. I have some manuals to games I don't have anymore, and I have cases, some games that don't have any cases, and vice versa. And I had seen that I had. Well, no, I had seen that I had a manual for Wind Waker. So I found the manual and the disc the same day when I was going through my NES stuff. Oh wow! So I haven't found the case yet. I may have the case packed away somewhere. I was really I don't know. It just felt I don't know. It was incredible. I was not at all looking for it. And it was just there. It fell out on my table. It was just sitting there. My copy of Wind Waker for the GameCube.
Oh, nice.
So I still own that. I still have.
You should look through the rest of your NES stuff and see if you could find the Skies of Arcadia disc in one of them.
I knew you were going to say that, and I did that exact thing. Unfortunately, there were no other GameCube games.
Oh, sure.
I checked one after that.
It's all right. I thought maybe you could find the Twilight Princess in there too, because didn't you say that you weren't sure where your GameCube copy of Twilight Princess was? Also,
I know where it is now.
Oh, okay.
I have found that one since.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, at least you found it. I wonder what happened to the case of that. You should have Ace Harding get on the case of the lost Wind Waker case. I know he's probably been dead for 30 years, but
Deja Vu 3 geriatric search, and it's just Ace Harding looking through boxes. That's all he can really handle.
Yeah. Now that he's been through so much, it's just he just looks for video game boxes now.
He's 93 years old. All right, Ace, you could be really helpful. Go through these totes that I found in my closet. See if there's a case to Wind Waker in it.
Yeah. Ace, get looking on that. Okay.
All right, I need gun 3. No, you don't need gun 3. Just look for the case.
He clicks use case on self and puts it through his heart and he dies.
God damn it, Ace.
That's what I can.
Well, at least he found the case. He busted the case.
But yeah, I'm glad you found that disc.
Yeah, but that's a little magic story that happened because I bought the Family clone. That wouldn't have happened for a little while. And
now you found Wind Waker. So see, some stories have happy endings. I was hoping our out would be just remember, kids, when you're playing when you're playing those slot machines, that last coin will always get you a winner. I was thinking about going out on that before we got to that story, but that story was good too.
I saved that story. I didn't tell you before because I thought it'd be good.
Sure. All right. Well, I think we're good for this week, right?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, cool. Well, this has been episode 26. We're your hosts, Trey Johnson and
Jeremy Mikowski.
And we'll see you next week when we get into our Star Tropic stuff. So, play it on Virtual Console so you know what we're talking about when we get there. Totally
and don't
available.
try to eat the map.
And don't try to eat the map, yeah. This is bad.